And greetings to everyone from India. I will be speaking on rights of rivers, processes, and rights of nature, processes that are emerging in India and also South Asia, rest of South Asia, and what it means for the entire region. So, well, specifically for India, in 2017, the Uttarakhand High Court, which is one of the North Indian states in India, passed a judgment recognizing rights of river Ganga and Yamuna. Now, just to give a context to everybody, these two rivers are extremely important rivers, just like the rivers are for many people in the rest of the world as well. They sustain millions of people, and all through their way, because they also cross many boundaries of states within India, and also go to the neighboring country of Bangladesh, and then eventually to the Bay of Bengal. So these are very important sacred rivers for many communities, and hence, and granting rights to these rivers was one of those important judgments that came about in the process of protecting rivers and regenerating their flows and stuff like that. But what does this judgment say? So this judgment spoke about basically evoking parents' pathway jurisdiction, declaring the glaciers, including the glaciers where these two rivers originate, that is the Gangotri and the Yamunotri glaciers in the Himalayas, the rivers, the rivulets, the tributaries, the forests, the wetlands, the grasslands, all of them as having rights to that of a legal person with corresponding duties and liabilities as that of a living person. This was an interesting judgment for many reasons. One particular because the court spoke about that the river is living, is biologically living, and has a right to exist and persist. This is not the language as we see also in many parts of the world. This is not the language that the legal systems usually, or the judgments or the policy really speak in. And so that was a very interesting language that the court used, also inspired by the New Zealand judgment and what that spoke about. And subsequently also expanding on what it means for the communities, why is it sacred, and what it would mean to protect the river. So in that way, it was a very interesting judgment talking about, and in a language of recognizing that the rivers are alive. Also including how many communities across India see rivers and have reverence for rivers in a way that they consider rivers as alive, as being goddesses, as being something that they hold reverence for. But there were also several questions and opportunities that this judgment raised. I would first like to focus on the questions, which actually lead us to the opportunities, and would like to be very brief in it, and maybe we can expand on them later. One was that though the judgment sort of recognized the rights of rivers, it did not really define what is a river. So just to have a context, India has a water policy. It doesn't have a river policy. So rivers are just seen as water, but there's so much more than that, we all know. And so it doesn't define the river. It doesn't define the rights of the river. What are the rights? What exactly are the rights? Is it also the rights of the species, endangered species in the river? Is it about the forest, catchment area, basin? It doesn't get into those details. It doesn't define the duties of the rivers. What will be the duties of a river as that of a living person? And if we see in the conjunction with what we has as humans as fundamental rights to live and fundamental right to speak, what it would mean in the context of a river. It doesn't specify the issues of implementation. Now, Ganga and Yamuna, both these rivers, like many rivers, cross boundaries. They don't follow necessarily any state boundaries or nation boundaries. So how do we implement a complex judgment like this in various states that have their own policies of use of water from the rivers? It doesn't specifically get into the idea of what is the role of the local communities. So it appoints as guardians the state representatives, and we know how state has usually acted in terms of protecting nature or rivers, usually in favor of corporates. And so if the communities, if the local communities are not part of any of these processes, how we are really being able to ensure the rights of the rivers? And then it doesn't define violations, which is one of the very crucial aspects of what are we really up against. Is it just is just regular pollution, or there's much more? I think all earlier speakers have also entered a systemic issue or systemic growth fetishness to a growth model, development model, that is where we are going towards. And with that, it is also very crucial of what basically is what would be the compensation, restitution in the case of injury done to the river, who gets it, what will be the form of it, and some of these very fundamental and implementational questions. And so what this led to is also a lot of people, the civil society, trying to see what does this judgment means. It's just also there are several experiences from across the world, but what does it really mean for India, and also the rest of South Asia? Because there are several conflicts between the use of river waters: India Pakistan, India Nepal, India Bangladesh, India China. And so what does it mean for this whole region? Rather than looking at through nation state boundaries, how do we look at regional level? And so earlier this year, in March, we organized a dialogue among people who've been working on these issues and I've been trying to explore some of these questions. Of course, COVID was just beginning to attack the regular meeting standards, and so a lot of participation was hindered, but we still had an amazing dialogue on exploring some of these questions, and also exploring these definitions of what is a river, and what are some of these implementational issues, and how do we move beyond some of these questions. So which we can get into later. But this South Asian Rivers Collective has emerged to look at these relationship between customary and traditional laws, and also doing a lot of groundwork on how do we recognize rights of nature, rights of rivers, what it means for the South Asian level. How do we reimagine the governance from ecological point of view, and how do we look at the local processes, and what could be the potential legal and policy strategies? So I have possibly gone over time, so sorry about that, and we can get onto it later. Thank you.